Stop being so dramatic, Kathleen. You knew this was coming. Tom's voice sliced through the air like a dull knife. He stood in the center of our Palm Springs living room, suitcase packed by the door, staring down at the photo album I'd spent weeks putting together. He flipped through it, bending the corners I'd carefully preserved. I mean, look at this, 25 years of marriage, crammed into this little scrapbook. Seriously? I stayed quiet, watching him. Each photo he flipped past was a memory: our wedding, our first house, holidays, birthdays. But what he didn't realize was that hidden between those memories were documents that would change everything. He closed the album with a snap. Since we're being honest, I've been seeing Jessica from the office for 8 months. She's young, ambitious, everything you used to be. He nodded toward the door. She's waiting for me. We'll be at the Grand Vista until we find a place. Jessica, his 28-year-old intern. Of course, I knew. I'd seen the signs, the late nights, the perfume on his shirts, the sudden weekend conferences, but I hadn't said a word. I'd waited. That's quite the announcement, I said, calmly, and on our anniversary, too. He laughed, cruel and loud. You didn't seriously expect me to celebrate, did you? The dinner reservation, this little album, it's pathetic. Kathleen, you're clinging. I stood up, smoothing the emerald dress he always said made me look mature. I walked over and gently took the album from his hands. You're right, I said quietly. Tonight didn't go how I planned. He raised an eyebrow. What are you doing? Taking back what's mine, I said with a soft smile. You won't be needing these memories anymore. Because in between those photos was something he'd never expected, something that would shatter the life he thought he was walking into. A week ago, I stayed up until 3 a.m., sitting alone at the kitchen table, checking and rechecking the numbers on a lottery ticket I'd bought on a whim. 6 numbers that turned me into a millionaire overnight. The first person I called wasn't Tom, it was Eleanor Wilson, the most trusted financial advisor in the area. Within 3 days, she and her legal team had secured everything in my name. Not a dime of it could be touched by Tom, or anyone else. While Tom had been planning his life with Jessica, I was planning mine, a new beginning, beachfront properties in Malibu, freedom. You know what's funny? I said, running a hand along the album's edge. I thought it would hurt more, watching you walk out, but it doesn't. He lingered by the door, his hand on the handle. Don't tell me you're having some emotional epiphany. No, I replied, sitting at the antique desk he'd insisted we buy just last year. I've just had a lot of clarity lately. His phone buzzed. He smirked. That's Jessica, she's waiting downstairs. He adjusted his tie, the blue silk one I gave him last Christmas, and checked his reflection. I'll have my lawyer contact you about dividing the assets. Let's keep this clean. No need to drag things out. I smiled to myself. In about 3 minutes, his plan was going to fall apart. Before you go, I said, opening the album again, there's something I want to show you. I carefully pulled a folded document from between the pages of a photo from our Hawaii trip, the last one we took before everything changed. He glanced at it with disinterest. What's this? Some therapy pamphlet? No, I said, standing tall. This is a letter from the California Lottery Commission. His smirk faded. 7 days ago, I won the lottery, $98 million. After taxes, about $60 million. I watched the color drain from his face. In California, winnings before a divorce are considered separate property, so, it's mine. His suitcase slipped from his hand. You're lying. I'm not, I said, holding the letter out so he could see the seal, the signature, the bolded sum. It's real, already invested, locked down, you can't touch a cent. He took a few steps toward me. Kathleen, sweetheart, we can talk about this. I've made mistakes, sure, but we've got history. We built a life. A life you threw away. I cut in, like when you spent our savings on a diamond bracelet for Jessica, or lied about that trip to Santa Barbara. His phone buzzed again. Jessica, still waiting. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. You can't do this, he said, voice cracking. We're married, I have rights. I shook my head slowly, and I have lawyers, better ones than you could ever afford now. I walked him to the door, pausing before opening it. She's waiting, you should go, that new life of yours won't wait forever. He looked back, pleading, lost, but I was already turning away. What he didn't know was that this was just the beginning for me. I let my words hang in the air for a moment. They're meeting tomorrow morning to talk about your job, though, between us, I don't think the meeting will take long. Tom's phone buzzed again. This time, he answered, his hands trembling. Jessica. I can't come, something's happened, he said, voice shaky. I watched as he pulled the phone away from his ear. Even from where I stood, I could hear her yelling. He listened for a moment, then ended the call. He looked smaller now, weaker, like a balloon slowly deflating. You've ruined everything, he whispered. I shook my head. No, Tom, you did that on your own. I'm just choosing not to be part of your lies anymore. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out. The city lights sparkled like stars below us. For years, I thought they represented success, the life we had built, but now, they just looked like lights, distant and cold. You know what's funny? I said, not turning around. If you had just been honest with me. If you had asked for a divorce like a decent man, I probably would have given you something, not half, of course, but enough to start fresh. I turned back to face him. But now, you get nothing. His eyes widened. He looked like he was about to speak, but I wasn't finished. Well, not exactly nothing, I added. You get to live with the consequences of your actions. The board is pressing charges for the embezzlement, and those offshore accounts you thought were hidden, they've found them. Tom's face changed from red to pale in seconds. In a panic, he rushed toward the photo album, probably thinking I'd hidden more documents inside, but I had already removed everything important. The album now held only photos, pictures of a life we no longer had. You manipulative, he started to shout, but stopped himself. Maybe he realized how ridiculous that sounded, coming from him. I learned from the best, I said calmly, and I have to thank Jessica too. If she hadn't been so eager to brag about your future plans at her yoga class, I might not have discovered the embezzlement so quickly. Her friend Olivia, very talkative after a glass or two of wine. He looked stunned. Every piece of his plan was falling apart. I glanced at my watch. The police will be here soon, I said. Amanda filed the official report this afternoon. I'd suggest calling a lawyer, a good one, preferably one who specializes in white-collar crime. A knock at the door made him jump. His eyes darted around like he was searching for an escape, but we were on the 15th floor. There was nowhere to go. That's Detective Harrison, I said, walking toward the door. He's very interested in your offshore accounts. Suddenly, Tom grabbed my arm, his fingers tight and painful. We can work something out, he begged. I'll sign the divorce papers. I'll confess about the affair. Just, don't do this, please. I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. Let go, Tom, now. The knock came again, louder this time. He stepped back, looking more desperate than ever. You don't understand, he said. There are others involved, powerful people. If this comes out. Oh, I know all about your powerful friends, I said, brushing my sleeve. Michael Anderson, he already flipped on you. Turns out he'd rather work with the FBI than take the fall for you. Tom's face went white. That's not possible, Michael would never. He did, right after they showed him texts where you blamed everything on him. You really should have picked a better phone password than password 1234. Now, the knocking had turned to pounding. Mr. Thomas Wilson, this is the police. Open the door. Tom tried one more time. Do you know what people will say about you? You'll be the woman who sent her own husband to prison. I looked at him, calm and steady. I'll be the woman who exposed a criminal, who helped protect innocent investors from a con artist. I can live with that. I opened the door. Detective Harrison stood there, 2 officers beside him. He's all yours, I said. You might want to check his phone. He was about to delete some messages. Tom looked like he'd been punched. As the officers handcuffed him, he turned back to me. You planned this. The dinner, the album, it was all a trap. The lottery win, pure luck, I said, watching as they led him away. But everything else? Yes, I planned it. After 25 years, I figured I was due for a return on my investment. Just before he reached the hallway, he shouted over his shoulder. What about Jessica? Are you going to ruin her life too? I shook my head. Jessica made her own choices, but she already got a copy of your texts with Michael Anderson, especially the part where you called her a useful idiot, who would take the fall if things went south. I imagine she's talking to her own lawyer by now. And just like that, he was gone. I looked at the photo album one last time. It still sat on the table, full of memories from a marriage built on lies. But I didn't need it anymore. 1 year later, I sat on the deck of my Malibu beach house, watching the sun dip into the Pacific Ocean. The waves rolled gently to shore, peaceful and steady, so different from the noise and chaos of my old life. After Tom's arrest, things moved quickly. He took a plea deal, agreeing to testify against others in the scheme. 8 years in prison. It wasn't 20, but it was something. Jessica disappeared to Arizona, her dreams of being the next rich wife gone in an instant. The media moved on quickly, and I focused on something better. I used the lottery winnings to create something meaningful, a foundation that helps women escape financial abuse. We provided counseling, legal help, and startup funding for those starting over, just like I had. Every time a woman walked into our office with fear in her eyes and walked out with hope, I felt a little more whole. One morning, I got a letter from Tom. I didn't open it right away. When I finally did, it was filled with apologies, promises, and a request to help with the foundation once he got out. He'd found God in prison, he said. I laughed and shredded the letter. He hadn't changed, still looking for an angle. That night, I shared the story with James, an investor and major donor to the foundation. He was kind, funny, and someone who knew how to really listen. Some people never change, he said with a smile, handing me a glass of champagne. But others do, I replied, looking around the gala, where women we'd helped were now thriving, owning businesses, going back to school, raising families on their own terms. Oh, I added, remember that photo album? I donated it. It now sat in a museum, part of an exhibit on domestic abuse and financial manipulation. A small plaque beneath it read, "Sometimes the strongest chains are the ones we think we can't break." James raised his glass. To breaking chains. And building bridges, I said, smiling toward the future, stronger, freer, and finally, truly mine.